Well, I wonder whether you have any favourite places to come and to spend time with God in prayer or just walk and enjoy nature. Brumker Hill is one of those places for me. And what a great day I found here to be able to come out and enjoy this place, this space, to think and to pray about Christchurch and Barnabas, about who we are and where we're going. Now, as we may already know, we hopefully will all know, Christchurch is that place where we are one family following Jesus and growing community. What does that mean? It basically means that we together, as a diverse family spanning generations, experiences and outlooks on life, we're united by a shared commitment to love God, to love Him well and to become more like Jesus. In how we live and how we give, we draw others into a fuller knowledge of God's love for them in Jesus. Why are we committed to doing all of that? We're committed because we believe that growing as a follower of Jesus is the best thing that anyone can do with their life. And Christchurch and St Barnabas are great places for that to happen. We are a church where everyone is welcome, where everyone's invited to taste and see that the Lord is good, and we're a church that seeks to make God's word understood and encourage God's ways to be lived out, however challenging or however controversial that may seem in the modern world. We seek to steward the resources that God gives us and become the people that God calls us to become, the very best versions of ourselves, if you like. And to do that well, to do all of that well and in healthy, accountable ways, we need to capture where we are, where we believe God wants us to be, and think about how we might get from A to B. So we have a strategic 7-year vision stating particular outcomes that we want to aim for, and an annually revised seasonal vision made up of more specific priorities designed to keep us on track with our strategic vision and keep us accountable to those who give time, energy and finance to what God is doing amongst us and through us in our communities. Our strategic vision has 5 desired outcomes that by our APCM in 2025, we might firstly release at least 15 emerging leaders into calls to ministry and mission. Secondly, commission a team to grow a new worshipping community. Thirdly, to welcome at least 150 new followers of Jesus. And fourthly, begun discipling twice as many children and young people through regular groups and activities. Fifthly, we want to have begun redeveloping our halls for thriving ministries, training and hospitality. Last year, as we were more confidently emerging from the pandemic, we prioritised 5 things that considered the ongoing impact of the pandemic and sought to bring us back on course for that the strategic outcomes that we had set back in 2018. Those 5 priorities from last year were expanding discipleship opportunities, leadership pathways, which was aided by us hosting the Real Life course and planting new life groups. Secondly, we talked about strengthening relational and emotional well-being due to the ongoing impact of the pandemic. So we offered a teaching series on well-being. We invested more regularly in prayer ministry and encouraged greater participation in life groups. And thirdly, we talked about launching Inhamnook Hope Community Hub to serve the underserved in and around Inhamnook, which we did last June. And fourthly, we talked about commissioning a team to launch a new worshipping community in Inhamnook, which has continued to make progress, but we're carrying forward that into this year because we haven't completed that yet. Fifthly, we talked about reprioritising and reinvesting in our young people, placing them more at the heart of church life by making suitable staff appointments. And so we appointed Laura Otwell as children's pastor, and we've interviews coming up for young people's community pastor. This year, discerning what we should now be prioritising has been a much more openly inclusive process, largely thanks to the introduction of our first ever IPCM, an interim parochial church meeting to complement the annual parochial church meeting. The IPCM at the start of last November was a wonderful evening with cheese biscuits, fruit and wine on offer. And we had a chance to hear your thoughts and ideas around how we've been progressing in our priorities and what sort of things that we might want to be prioritising next. Thank you to all of you who attended that and to those who completed the supporting survey that drew more people into the discernment process after that. If you wanted to have a copy of the feedback that we got on that evening, then get in touch with Anne Wilmot. She'd be delighted to be able to send you a copy of that. Anyway, where was I? Following the IPCM, the PCC met and helped focus those ideas into 5 priority areas for the next season of church life. Since then, various people have been drawn into teams or small working groups to take more ownership of developing and delivering on those priorities over the course of this year. And that's something I'm personally over the moon about, because the gifts and experiences of our wider church family are being better drawn on to help us become all that we can become and mobilise around the person of Jesus, the priorities of his kingdom, living out, being one family, following Jesus and growing community. So what are those new priorities? What are those things that in the year ahead we're going to be prioritising? Well, here they are. Firstly, we're going to be developing a culture of belonging and serving amongst children and young people and youth. Secondly, we want to be establishing, finally, the Orchard, the new worshipping community in Inham. Thirdly, we want to be renewing our digital media platforms, communication streams, and then establishing effective pathways for serving and leading in church life. Fifthly, finally, we want to revitalise our vision and practice of welcome and hospitality. Now, rather than me unpacking all of those further, explaining why we think they should be our primary priorities and what they might include or involve, I'd love you to hear all of that from some of those who have been involved in developing those ideas and who are going to be involved in some way in delivering them. They're each very short, so you can either keep watching this video to see them one after the other, or you can look at each one individually using the YouTube links that you've been sent. This will be it from me, basically. So all I need to do and say at this point is, if you have any further or particular questions off the back of this, or any of the annual reports, the videos that are forthcoming, as we look back over the year and look forward, please send them to the office either by email or by paper. Preferably, please do that by the end of Tuesday next week, which will give us an opportunity to reflect on your questions and be able to offer you more helpful responses on the evening. Thank you for watching this, and I cannot wait for the opportunity to discuss all of this with you further next Thursday evening. And then as we step forward together into this next season of our life here in Chilwell and in Inham as one family, following Jesus and growing community.
So we feel this is important because the future of the church lies in our children and young people, but we cannot get to the future without investing in our children and youth.
We want to see them know and love Jesus more, that the choices they make and the people they become would reflect that. We feel that being at the heart of church life, growing and getting involved with others, older Christians as well as peers, will really help to equip, empower our children and young people and prepare them for a life with Christ.
As part of this investment and our strategic vision, we feel we should be aiming as a church to welcome 50 new children and young people into regular discipleship opportunities.
In order to get there, there were a number of things that have already started doing and some other things that we're going to be working towards over the next year ahead.
The first worship workshops have been a great way of helping children to understand why we worship with songs the way we do, and to help them feel like they can join in with their parents and the wider church family. Thanks to Mark Baker for the idea and organisation of it. It was a great success. The youth version has already seen some of the youth serving as part of the worship group, and the children who attended the children's session were involved in songwriting, creating instruments and worship flags. On top of all of this, it has been amazing to see our youth and primary age children involved in serving communion. To see them serving as adults has been so encouraging. Knowing how important it is to help young people transition between groups, we have already taken a fresh look at what this might look like for our year 6s and year 9s, which has been especially important in the light of the disruption of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have recognised that while the year 9s have missed out on a lot of Pathfinders time, that it would not be beneficial for them to stay in the Pathfinders age range. Rather, we are looking at ways to help facilitate the transition to settling and also serving in Sunday services in a way that will help them more quickly feel like they belong there, which they do. Details of what this might look like, based on conversations with some of our current year 10 to 13s, are being sent to all parents who have children currently in year 9 or older.
Some of the feedback we received from our 14 to 18-year-olds was encouraging, some surprising and some challenging in all the right ways. There were a number of youth who attend Sunday mornings already who said the talks were relevant to them, which was great to hear. However, there was some constructive feedback about how we might make the services, especially the talks, more engaging and perhaps some more interactive elements. A few youth aren't really engaged on Sundays or even interested in coming to a service, so we need to take a good look at how we can encourage them to feel more inclined to joining in.
So, we plan to work on all of that, but specifically we want to establish a Sunday pattern for our older youth to help them engage well and be encouraged in services, especially helping them to get more out of the talks. We want to work well with the team focusing on priority 4, establishing effective pathways for serving and leading in order to include and encourage young people to feel more like they are an integral part of the church. And we want to invest in those children and young people who are eager to serve, developing a mentor type system with some established members of the church who are already serving. This can work for young people and adults wishing to serve for the first time.
We are incredibly grateful for all the leaders and helpers that we have helping with youth and children's work at Christ Church. We are aware that to do all we have planned, we need more adult members of the church to help and invest in them. We need more volunteer helpers as well as those who can occasionally lead.
We are really encouraged by the young people we have and are really excited to see what God is already doing with them, how He's working with them and through them. But we also know we need to do much more to help them grow more confident in their faith and confident in their belonging as valued members of church life. And dependent on what finance is available, it may mean more investment in leadership roles among young people.
It's an exciting time, and you might be asking, well, why? Why are we doing this? Well, Christchurch was itself a plant from Attenborough back in 1915, and St Barnabas was a plant from Christchurch back in 1957. So we have a history, you could almost say a tradition of church plants in the parish. And we know that people who don't know Jesus, it can be difficult to join an existing church community. And up at St. Barnabas, there's the opportunity for something new to happen, so that those who don't know Jesus will have an opportunity to get to know Jesus by being part of a new community of faith. And that's the exciting development that's happening now. Ryan is up on location in Inhamnook, and he's ready to tell us more about what's happening and when. So over to Ryan. Thank you for listening.
So we're here in the northwestern corner of the parish, and behind me you can probably just see the tops of the houses around Inhamnook, the estate there. And this is where we're going to be starting a new community called the Orchard. And that name came about through prayer, really. And this all starts through prayer. It's all rooted in prayer. Christians have been praying in this place for decades, since the estate was first built. And here we are now, at the beginning of God doing something new. And a couple of years ago, I was praying on the track just behind us here. And God just popped the words into my head of fertile ground. And so as a team, we've been praying that this place would once again become fertile ground. And it turns out that the land behind me and the estate itself was once covered in orchards, in apple orchards. And so our prayer, our hope is that once again it would be fertile ground for the gospel, a place of planting and nurture and growth. And that's how we came up with the Orchard. We're looking ahead to Pentecost, actually, as the kind of the birthday of the church, as a possible date when we might launch, and basically that means just starting public worship. Now there's a few things to iron out, a few details to get sorted, and we're hoping to meet as a team very shortly to kind of work through those things before that happens. But the team's been wonderful. There's 18 of us, including adults and children, and that spans across 3 generations, which is just wonderful. And I love how God calls his church. You know, we don't make it, and God calls people from all sorts of different backgrounds and types of people who wouldn't normally be together, or we wouldn't necessarily choose each other, but it's so clear that God's called each one of those people to be part of what he's doing here. And last Sunday, Easter Sunday, we had a wonderful time, where as a team we took a bit of a lead on an Easter celebration, threw a bit of a party, had a barbecue here and some games, and drank champagne, and we worshipped and prayed together, and just invited friends and neighbours from around us, from the streets around us here, people we've met over the sort of previous months and years. And that was a really important time as a team together, I think, and we kind of hope for loads more opportunities like that to share the good news.
We're living through one of the greatest communication shifts in 500 years. Changes in technology fundamentally changed the way that we communicate today. In the Bible, Matthew calls us to the Great Commission: break out beyond the church walls and to communicate the gospel to the world and to all people, meeting them where they are. So never has there been a better time as a church to maximise our presence across all digital media channels. At the start of 2023, there were 66 million internet users in the United Kingdom. Now, it's said that people's impressions of a website are formed within the first 50 milliseconds. People on average only reading a quarter of the text on a page. With that in mind, it's clear to see the importance of a high quality and engaging web presence.
We want to revamp our website to create an opportunity for church members to communicate, create a portal for people outside the church to make ourselves more visible, to develop a central hub for all information, to present a welcoming, friendly platform. People looking for a church expect these days to be able to find out everything they need to know about a church from its website.
Research suggests that 59% of the world population use social media, with on average people spending around 2.5 hours a day interacting with content. In 2022, Mark Zuckerberg said, "One of the main transformations in our business right now is the social media feeds are going from being driven primarily by the people and accounts that you follow to increasingly also being driven by AI recommending content that you'll find interesting from across Facebook or Instagram, even if you don't follow those creators." So how much of this AI-driven content will we expect to see? Well, Mark Zuckerberg says that we expect these numbers to more than double by the end of 2023. So in this changing landscape, how do we as a church remain digitally visible?
It's essential that we create and refresh our presence on social media channels, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. Our focus will be to provide a high quality presence across all platforms, delivering regular content. In addition, we would like to find ways to optimise our use of Church Suite, allowing us as a church family to build community and connect together more efficiently.
So we hope all this excites you as we seek to develop our digital ministry at Christ Church and St Barnabas. Follow the journey with us and join the conversation.
So why is serving one of our priorities for the coming year?
Yeah, well, I guess the short answer is it came top of the list in the feedback from the IPCM and the survey we did back in November. But I guess there's a sort of maybe slightly sort of longer answer in terms of it provides opportunities for us to serve and live out our Christian life. A good way, I guess, particularly if you're new to church, in terms of so it's a really good way to get to know people, isn't it? And I think also just it's one of the ways we need more volunteers if we're going to do all the other sort of priorities and things that we'd like to do in the coming year.
Okay. And what are we looking to do?
Right, okay, so what we're looking to do is we are going to, I think it'd be really good if we could have a kind of single place to go if you're wanting to find the opportunity to volunteer, to a single place to go. And then I think something maybe it takes slightly longer to do, but it would be really good if we could have kind of maybe role descriptions for some roles, so you kind of know what you're letting yourself in for, what the commitment is, and what it will involve really. And then I think maybe for some of the things that we do, it would be really good if we had some kind of taster sessions. So again, so you can get a feel of it and see if it's the right thing for you. I think if we can do all that, and probably some other things as well, then I think that would make it easier for people to volunteer. And then we'll be able to achieve all the things that we believe that God wants us to do for the coming year.
So we are really excited to think about how we can make Christchurch even more welcome than it already is. And we've noticed that actually lots of new families and people are coming to Christchurch, which is absolutely fantastic. But one of the things we've been reflecting on is actually that space at the back of church is quite busy, a little bit chaotic at times with all these new people coming in. And we just really want to think about that space, how we can make it more accessible. And we're sat here amongst some plans, some ideas, some things to make us and help us to think about it. And we're going to make these available at church for people to have a think through together. Because we'd just love to use this space better. How can we make church even more welcoming, easy for people to come in and find people, get to know people, pick up information and enjoy being church family and part of our community. So Helen, you've been part of this team for a few months now thinking about this. What is going to happen next, or what has already happened, and what's the plan for the coming months?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think, as you said, it's really exciting to kind of look at these ideas. And as you said, we are already a really welcoming church. So I think over the last few months, we've just been looking at creative ideas of how we can just basically enhance the space. No drastic changes really, but enhance the space to make it feel more welcoming. I think it's a beautiful space anyway, isn't it, as you walk in? It really is. And I think it's a bit like when we have people to our homes, we might, put an extra chair out or fluff up some cushions or do something so that people coming know that they have been made to feel really welcome. And I guess that's what we're trying to create. So it will just be a few little adjustments to allow a more kind of natural flow of the space as people come in. Very much as people come in, focusing on that, you know, one family, following Jesus, growing community, which is central to everything we're trying to do at church. So yeah, we're trying to be really flexible, we're chatting to people, listening to ideas and thoughts. We're a very diverse church in terms of age and life stage, and we want to make sure everybody feels at home as they come in, whether it's new people or people who've been around forever. So that's really what we're aiming to do. The PCC have looked at some of the ideas, they like them, so I just think it's one step at a time, but yeah, very exciting.
We're very excited, and you can have a chance to chat to one of us or to have a look at some of these pictures and ideas, because we're going to present them at the back of church, and we'd love to hear your ideas too about how we can make Christchurch a really welcoming space.